morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. Nice to see you again.
You too. Actually, I don't think I saw you the first time. It was just on the phone.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I graduated to Zoom. I went all visual, so it's good.
Okay. Right on.
Well, it's great to catch back up with you. And from my perspective, it's so good to see musicians releasing material after all of those years of, well, we're
Nothing.
woodshedding, we're working on it, it's coming. So it's so good to see all this materialize.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists are. This is the period everybody's releasing an album. A lot of the same dialogue around it too. Stuff
Yeah.
I wrote during the pandemic.
So speaking of the pandemic, how did you get through that 3-year period now that things are waking up? How did you survive it? How did it change you?
That's like a heavy question.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
um,
starting off light here.
uh, like it answered a question I'd had for years, which was, what would I do if I couldn't play?
Yeah.
Like, how would I get along? How would I like where would I get emotionally? And it wasn't the end of the world like I thought it was going to be. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, when this is all done, I can't wait to play anywhere with anybody for any amount of money. Like, I'm just going to get out there. And the exact opposite happened.
Yeah.
After like this period of nothing, I found myself actually like really getting a little more selective with what I wanted to play. And that certain gigs, I was just like, I don't have to do this. Like, I actually don't enjoy it. And so that was a surprising takeaway of the pandemic. Was I was like, wow, there are some things I like doing and some things I don't like doing anymore. And I thought I was going to be desperate, but it was not,
Yeah.
I was not.
That's interesting because, I've heard several different takes on that. Like musicians that are very well established that have been doing it their whole lives question themselves being a musician. Is this
Yeah,
my lot in life? And then there was others that when they finally started playing and there was thousands of eyeballs on them, they were like, wow, I don't know what to do with this. There was kind of there was this timeline of things that went into it. But like with everyone, there was this reevaluation, a reexamination of your
exactly.
existence. So it makes total sense. Um,
One of the gigs I got out of the pandemic was a tour of the US with a musical. I'd never done that before. And yeah, that was one. It was like a bucket list thing. And it's weird because when we were touring through the States, like a lot of mask mandates were still in place in a lot of states, and like constant testing was a big part of the company. And so it was weird because I didn't get to enjoy touring the way I think you would have pre-pandemic or even now, because a lot of the regulations are down. So it was like this thing that I'd always wanted to do, but sort of sterilized, right? Like sort of muted, uh, which was like a sign to me. Playing musicals and touring with other bands is really fun, but I really actually want to focus on my own writing and my own compositions and my own recordings. It was weird, totally weird timeline. If all of this had happened in different years, I probably wouldn't have created this album.
well, and I guess that's the next question. How much of this was fueled by what we lived through, and how was this material, a part of that time period? How was it emblematic of it?
Like, uh, and I talked to you in March of 2020. I was supposed to release my third album in March of 2020, and I'd got sort of like I'd landed a nice gig at a theater, the Citadel here in Edmonton, and I was able to hire strings, and it was going to be this like new project sort of thing, and it never ended up happening. It all got canceled, which was depressing. Um, but the writing I got into because of that project was just different. It was very like chamber orchestra music type thing, salon music with strings, and really more orchestrated, more than I'd ever done before. And then because that's what the headspace I was in for those. I mean, we were locked down in Canada for, I want to say, I don't know, a few months. I don't even remember anymore.
It's a
Like,
blur.
I know it was, and it's almost been 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's wild. Uh, and I've completely forgotten your question. How did it
Oh,
feel, the project and the writing and
yeah. Yeah,
about
living through that. Yeah.
it? I mean, for myself, and I think maybe a lot of jazz musicians, my writing is dependent on who I'm playing with and is informed by where we're playing and how we're playing. So writing alone was a different experience because I couldn't take it to like a trio gig and try some stuff out, or we weren't allowed to practice in each other's homes, sort of thing. So the writing was all done at home in my head. So it was really different. And actually, I wasn't able to write for for months because it was like a sad and depressing time.
Sure.
And one of the first tunes I wrote, actually, and it's on the album, is Miss Lestrassi. And around that time when conspiracy theories were like really popping up and Twitter was more fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
Well put.
there,
Yeah.
there was this conspiracy theory that Beyonce was actually an Italian American woman named Anna Maria Lestrassi. Like, I don't even understand this, but and one of the albums I was listening to just as like comfort music was her album The Gift, like the Lion King soundtrack. And so I wrote a song called Miss Lestrassi, my tribute to Beyonce, because that's all I could really listen to at the time. I wasn't into listening to heavy, like to jazz or to anything that sort of reminded me of what I wasn't allowed to do. So yeah, how did it affect me? I listened to a lot of Beyonce and started to write comfort music.
You know, what's interesting, years ago, somebody I worked with told me that there was this big Tom Petty conspiracy that right before they were going to release their first album, he was in a coma and they found a body double and he never made it out. So this body double's been Tom Petty the whole time. And I'm like, man, how we orchestrate these tall, fictitious fables is beyond me.
No, and like that one's almost harmless, right? Because like there's
Right.
nothing almost.
Yeah.
It's probably offensive if you're Tom Petty,
Right.
but like, and the same one with the Beyonce Lestrassi one. I was like, I don't know what this is about, but it's kind of ridiculous, so I have
Yeah.
to laugh. There are some more harmful conspiracy theories out there. I'm not trying to take it lightly, but
Right. Yeah. And I think that what's interesting about you saying that is that during this pandemic, those things were fueled. We were all at home. We have access to every piece of information, and it can get orchestrated in sinister ways right
yeah,
beneath our eyes, you know?
yeah.
Um, and it is weird. We did interview in March of 2020. We had no idea what the hell was going on. Like, just
Oh
totally.
yeah, and I think you guys were it was March. Like we were a couple weeks maybe
Yeah.
into our lockdown. Still,
Uh-huh.
everything was very confusing. I'd never seen streets that empty before. Like people were like, "Oh, just go for a drive. Gas is so cheap right now. A relaxing drive." And I was like, "No, it's eerie. I just want to stay in my house." Which again was new when it was a really busy time. I was working a lot as a musician. Like, so anyway,
Well,
whiplash.
yeah, well, but the thing at that time too is I had to make a decision personally as a jazz journalist. What am I going to do? And I ramped up interviews more than I ever did before. And I talked to people that lived by Times Square, and they're like, "It's empty," and I'm like, "Whoa, that's
Yeah.
heavy." So it was almost like a Twilight Zone episode. Like, where's the punchline? Where's the everybody saying cut and everybody come back in the scene? It was very
Yeah.
strange, you know. But
And yeah.
yeah, it
Can't
yeah.
believe it was 3 years ago, but yes.
It was very strange. So, what are you hoping the listener gets from this particular album?
Oh, uh, I mean, fun, fun and comfort. I like this music was written during a time of self-reflection and just like curiosity of like, is this something that people want or can do anymore? Because like I said, it was the first concert I did after that time was in a parking lot because we weren't even able to play indoors yet. So it was
Yeah,
the parking lot of a curling club. And it was like, I had no idea what to expect. It was everything was weird, but it was like one of the best musical experiences because I was like, I'm just playing music that I want to play. I'm not trying to prove anything anymore. I I just want this to be fun and I want it
yeah,
to be me. And that's something without this like enforced slowdown. Uh, I forgot a little bit that music is supposed to be fun and
yeah,
is supposed to be like personal. And it's
yeah,
really easy to get wrapped up in like, I want to show people chops or I want to prove jazz this and that, or I want to, to get out of sales, basically, to get out of the idea that I have to market this or, make it radio friendly, or hopefully jazz journalists are into it.
yeah,
You, after not being allowed to play for like basically a year, that just stopped being a consideration. I was like, I just want to play music that I like. And that is very descriptive, like that is authentically me, that is super personal. So like there's a track on that album where I sang, or I sing. And that's something I was always super hesitant to do for a number of reasons. One of them being the very first person who ever hired me. When I asked him, what should I do on my first gig, my very first jazz gig? I think I'm going to sing some tunes. She's like, oh, no, no, don't sing, or they'll never consider you a trombone player. And that I carried that for like 20 years until the pandemic, where I was like, screw it. Like if I die tomorrow, I'll probably regret not having recorded that. So yeah, that's what I hope they get, that it's like personal and that it's supposed to be fun.
How many people you think told Chet Baker don't sing? And look what happened, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of that whole idea. Yeah. It's interesting. The thing that I noticed during the pandemic, talking to all of the musicians, where a lot of people left big cities because it was so expensive and there was a level of uncertainty. And I think
Mhm.
there was people that were students that were considering whether or not they wanted to pursue this crap because it was risky and all of the things that go into it. What is your take on the strength of the jazz community now that the world's waking up and getting back to it?
The strength of the jazz community. I mean, I for myself, it's essential and it always has been. And that's, that period when we couldn't have it, we couldn't experience community. Because like that's the other thing I always knew, but this got tested. Playing music alone or with just musicians practicing sucks. It's useless, it's meaningless unless you're actually sharing it with an audience.
Yeah.
It's a meaningless activity. It has to be like performance is its own thing. So that's not going anywhere. And it was more reinforced to me. It was reinforced to me at that time, like when this is all over, the sharing is going to continue, and the sharing is essential. The sharing is essential for like my happiness, for like community strengthening, for all of that. So, I mean, the money thing, the money, the sustainability, all of that, that's another story.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually like across a lot of different industries, we're having that conversation now about we should actually be allowed to live while we do this.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the actual jazz performance, it's as strong as ever.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of jazz performance, what is your itinerary now that everything's opened up and we're moving forward into the warm
I'm
months?
staying in Canada. Like I'm doing stuff in Edmonton and in Calgary and then in Winnipeg. I don't know. You probably know vaguely where those places are.
Sure.
I have nothing planned for the States right now.
Okay.
Right now. But I mean, I'm just going to release it in November. That's the winter, or sorry, in September, going into the winter. So it's really hard to tour. So hopefully, I'm going to try to get some stuff going for the Canadian and the summer jazz festival season with this new material. So that's the plan.
Yeah. So with this new album, how do you feel about your evolution? I mean, obviously, when I talk to you now, you're thinking about the next thing. How are you feeling, kind of in this, coming back out into the music phase and another album? How do you feel?
This is my favorite album.
Yeah.
This like and even in the process of making it was like easy, and I think it's supposed to be easy. The songs came really easy, like all of those tunes, and there's 13 of them. They were all written in like a 1 hour, 2 hour. I sat down, I started it, and it was finished, sort of thing. And then the recording process. I mean, there's 13 tracks that was recorded over 3.5 days, done. So everybody came, like everything came together really, really easily. And I think that's a good sign. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't want you want some struggle, like some friction can create like energy or whatever, but overall, really easy. Great players. Rachel Therrien, she's like one of my favorite trumpet players.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that she was available
Yeah.
to like come fly up north where I am for those couple days just to get some stuff done. And yeah, everybody's playing is fantastic. The chemistry was really good. And I'm really proud of the writing. Like, it's my favorite album.
So the Head of a Mouse is the new album. Where can people get it the best place and to keep up with you, live shows, anything about your world?
uh, AudreyOchoa.com, and it is released digitally on the 29th of September. Where can they get it? Bandcamp, all the places, all the places. But I mean, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be everywhere. And then physical copies, because I did print them because I like them,
Yeah.
and I have an artist who like put work into making them and whatever. That's I mean, for those, I think you either going to have to email me personally or contact the label, Chronograph Records.
Okay.
unless you're in
Audrey,
Canada, which is you'll just see me and you can buy them off the
yeah,
stage.
that's it. That's ideal. Exactly. Audrey, it's so great to
Yeah.
catch up with you in different times. So, and it's great to see new material. Best of luck with everything. I really appreciate your time again.